On October 1st, there was a post on my blog entitled Wanderlust. It became the inspiration for today's video, not so much the blog itself, but a response to it. A friend of mine from college wrote the following response, and a little background, simply that this friend taught high school for many, many years, and he was a history teacher and did advanced placement classes and coached football. He did all kinds of things, but here is what he wrote in response to the blog. He said, "Thank you, Tim, for your thoughts and wise words about wanderlust. I too succumb to the suppression of my wanderlust in order to fit into the lines and to fulfill professional and societal expectations of adulthood. Cavalier was often used to describe my attitude whenever I did something to challenge normative beliefs in order to encourage analysis and critical thinking in my students, especially after No Child Left Behind became the norm and memorizing facts and testing became the primary focus of education. By the end of my career, students seemed to no longer want to be challenged or encouraged to think. They simply wanted me to give them the information they needed to pass their state-mandated tests or to get a good score on the advanced placement exams. The stifling of my wanderlust, both professionally and personally, resulted often in anger, resentment, frustration, and depression, which resulted in my constant battles with weight. Now that I am that crazy old guy searching to fulfill that which nourishes my soul, I have less desire to fill my belly and more desire to fulfill my long suppressed wanderlust." I find it fascinating that we often suppress all kinds of things in our lives. That which in many ways is intrinsic to who we are because it doesn't fit in, or somebody looks at us in a strange way, or we're told, as I wrote in my blog, that if I keep going on this wanderlusting spirit, my professional abilities, or if you want to say my professional career, would be very limited because people would see me as unstable. But if we suppress things, if we try to squash them down, if they're a part of who we are, I believe they're going to come out some way. As my friend wrote, yeah, he could suppress them and stifle them, but then it came out in other ways, in anger or depression or anxiety or eating. I believe that that which is intrinsic and innate in us, even though we try to suppress it, is going to come out. So maybe instead of trying to suppress things, we need to look at how do we use what is there in us and in around us to help facilitate health, growth, stimulation, creativity, investigation, and fulfillment in life. I mentioned to you a few of these videos ago that I'm in a training program, and the major event I'm training for begins on New Year's Eve. It's a winter ultra event. And I've been following the training plan of a coach, a person who I know, who's put together a training plan for me. And everything was going quite well until it didn't go well. I developed some pretty severe pain in my right knee. Was it familiar? A little bit. I've had pain before in events and in training, But this seemed a lot different. So what did I do with the pain? Well, I got on my phone, looked up, good old internet MD to try to find out what was going on. And so then try to self-diagnose and self-heal. But the pain persisted. And I was upset that I couldn't keep up with my training program. I was upset that I didn't have the mobility I used to have. I could take some over-the-counter medications, and they seemed to help, but nothing got rid of it. And other people said, Tim, what's wrong with you? Oh, it's okay. It's no big deal. The pain, even though I tried to suppress it, because it was a part of me, it came out in other ways, because you just can't suppress that which is significant in your life. It's going to come out. And sometimes it comes out in ways that aren't necessarily beneficial. So as we suppress things, or as they try to come out in various aspects of our life, it affects us emotionally, physically, spiritually, relationally. And part of that pain, I believe, is not unique to me or to my friend. I believe it's pretty widespread. And I work in a profession, the spiritual care, pastoral care profession, that should be pretty upfront and honest about the pain in people's lives. But I think over the course of time, we do one of two things with it. Either it's, if you have faith, everything will be great, your life will be marvelous, and don't worry about the pain. It's only temporary, and it's okay. Just think positive thoughts and pray about it, and it'll all go away. Well, I was thinking a lot of thoughts, and I don't know your definition of prayer, but I certainly had my knee issues on my mind, but they didn't lessen. Or the other part, that what some churches or some denominations do in the Christian mode is that pain and suffering, or the suppression of who we are at times, is beneficial. It's a part of discipline. We can offer it up for the benefit of others. I'm not sure if, at least in Christian thinking, that pain is something that God or that Jesus wants us to do. This idea that we got to suffer for suffering's sake because our suffering is going to help somebody else. I had a hard time with my suffering to say, oh yeah, this is beneficial, because my attitude, my perspective, my relations, or just the interactions with other people were based upon the pain that was going on within me. Or as my friend said, if you're frustrated and angry, and you're trying to fulfill yourself in ways that aren't beneficial, who does that help? It certainly doesn't help the people around us, in my perspective. Back in 1999, a singer by the name of Martina McBride sang this song entitled "Love's the Only House," and I share a few of the lyrics of one of the verses of that. Senorita can't quit crying, babies do now any day. Don Juan left, he got sick of trying. No one there to show him the way. She came down to the grocery store and she said, I want to buy a little carton of milk, but I don't have any money. I said, hey, I'll cover you, honey, 'cause the pain's gotta go somewhere. Yeah, the pain's gotta go someplace. So come on down to my house. Love is the only house big enough for all the pain in the world. Love's the only house big enough for all the pain. Love, a connectedness, a willing to listen and to understand, not to judge, not to wag fingers, not to suppress and say, what you're going through isn't that bad, or what you're going through you deserve. Love, a matter of listening and caring and supporting and equipping other people to deal with the realities of life. So what happened with me? Well, I kept trying to tough it out, read what was on the internet, put it into practice, trying to keep moving and keep going in ways that didn't have high impact on my knee, kept taking my over-the-counter NSAIDs, and things would get better temporarily. Finally, I got frustrated enough to seek other care. And in my mind, going to major medical facilities and clinics, I was going to have to go through all sorts of things that probably had nothing to do with my pain. And so I went to a place where I've gone before, and Dr. Lee at the Dollar Clinic welcomed me in and said, "What's going on?" So I told him what had happened, looked at the internet, here's what I think's going on. He says, "Where's the source of the pain?" And I pointed to the place on my leg that had the most pain. And he showed me rather quickly on his tablet what was going on and where the pain was and what it was called and how to fix it. And he listened to me and he interacted with me not so much as a medical professional, although he is, but as another human being who he himself has experienced pain. He has experienced setbacks in his career. And yet we sat there in the examination room as two equals in my estimation. He wrote me a prescription for what? A stronger dosage, or as he said, a more refined dosage of the same over-the-counter medication, basically, that I was taking. $4 at the pharmacy. He said, "Take it. What you read on the internet is correct, so go out there and get back to life." I left his office. I left the Dollar Clinic feeling like a new person. Was the pain still there? Yes, it was. I had to go to the pharmacy and begin the regimen of these medications. But I left there feeling better because he listened, he understood, he didn't judge, he didn't say, "Oh, it's all okay, just go out and it'll go away," or he didn't say, "Well, how could you have done that? Don't you know better? Don't you know your age? Don't you know all these factors that, you shouldn't be doing that?" He listened, and that equipped me. He listened instead of trying to stifle and suppress some of what I enjoy doing. Yes, the pain's got to go somewhere, but it can be dealt with. And I believe it gets dealt with in relationships, in being listening, open, non-judgmental, helping to think and question and look at life, and to equip us to use the skills that our Creator gave us to use. Pain is a part of life. I think we can talk about it, not to dwell on it, but to say, how do we get beyond it? How do we deal with it and yet get back to the fulfillment of life? instead of spending so much energy trying to suppress it and stuff it and say it'll just go away. The pain's got to go somewhere, and in Christian thought and teaching, that's part of the cross and resurrection. That we can put it aside and live in the life that God intended us to live. Once again, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I invite your comments.